It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center, here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Folks, what a night. It is going to be historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Carry on the target. Right hand from my boy, double jab.
Who's the king of violence? I am!
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
80 seconds remaining.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all.
Welcome to hour number 2, live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. 2 more hours to go. Plenty to get you primed and ready to go with over in Paris on another day at the Olympic Games. Track and field action, quarterfinal action in the women's basketball tournament, and Team USA on display as a hefty favorite against Nigeria. A lot to get to here in this second hour, DRS. It starts with Major League Baseball recaps, some hot takes from Donnie right side, and some NFL news and notes from around training camp, including some quarterback depth charts that might be a little bit surprising around the National Football League.
Yeah, I love it because sometimes you have to differentiate on some of these depth charts on if the coach is just trying to motivate or the coach is just trying to be a moron to get you upset. But also, Ben, I did see something yesterday. They hit the retweet button on that maybe we'll have a little bit of a hot take here. How about the S and that? Look, shout out the SEC. And back in the COVID days, when every other conference was like, oh, no, maybe we shouldn't play, the SEC is like, what's the problem? We're going to play here. So let's shout them out for that, for having the gumption to get the football field. But how about this, Ben? Putting out an actual depth chart here that's going to show injuries on a week-to-week basis. I mean, It just means more SEC. I mean, what? You got to love that, man. More you're going to go into a game like, there goes my touchdown prop. He's not even starting. Right. Love this.
Premier college football handicapper, did you know the Big Ten put that into action last year?
Yeah, what was that with Harbaugh putting Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and all those on his depth charts, and that's how he got around it? Was that him doing that, if I remember?
I don't think so. I think that would have been a punishable offense. All right. I'll make sure to look that up after. Anyway, let's start with some Major League Baseball recaps. In near history yesterday in Texas for the opposing team in the Lone Star State. That would be the Astros and the Rangers facing off in Arlington. Now, entering the game, Houston playing bad baseball. They had lost 6 of its last 8 games. The Rangers not playing much better, but did win the opener against the Stros 4-3 in walk-off fashion in extras on Monday night. Houston as a team, not so great in the last week and a half. Framber Valdez over the last month and a half, great. The Astros had won his last 7 starts. Valdez had won 5 of those 7, earning a decision himself, and was simply 1 out away, 1 batter away from his second no-hitter in the last 2 years. But enter Corey Seager. First pitch of the last at-bat for Framber Valdez yesterday, Seager goes yard. The Astros still win 4-2. Framber Valdez still wins, which means the Astros have won his last 8 starts in a row. They were booked as a -118 moneyline favorite in DRS. You pointed that out early in the day. Framber Valdez has been sensational. Yeah. Tyler Malley's making his season debut for Texas here. Why such a short number? Turned out to be the right side.
It was. And, obviously there's no real traps in Major League Baseball or the NFL where they just set a line to try to trip up the public. Those are the actual odds. But every once in a while they stick out and say, I'm getting a really good pitcher against an I don't know what's going to happen pitcher. Now, shout out the I don't know what's going to happen pitcher in Molly, who went 5 innings pitched and only 1 earned run yesterday, hanging around with Valdez. But Valdez has been a very good pitcher for a while now in Houston. Through injury and attrition, he's the one guy that's still able to stand as that ace of the staff. And he was awesome yesterday. And down the stretch, he's going to be a big deal because I do think now the Texas Rangers, I don't think they're going to have enough gas here. The Seattle Mariners, I do like the moves that they made at the trade deadline. I think they're better now because of that. But you still look at the Houston Astros as maybe still the cream of the crop, been there, done that before. And sooner or later, they're going to kick it into the gear as we were burying, at least I was burying them about a month and a half ago. 58-55, good win yesterday. Valdez being the ace of that staff. That's what you anticipate. Yeah. That's what you expect.
His first start of August last year, a no-hitter and only 93 pitches. That's Framber Valdez. His first start of August this year, 1 out away from a no. Wild card watch in Kansas City, where the Red Sox have taken each of the first 2 games of this set. Now just a half-game difference between KC and Boston. Kansas City holds the 3rd and final AL wild card spot. The Red Sox not all that far behind. The Royals were a home favorite yesterday with Seth Lugo on the bump. The Red Sox and Masataka Yoshida, who had 3 RBIs yesterday, get it done. All right, some hot takes from one Donnie right side. Lauri Markkanen, as we shared at the start of the show, signing a long-term extension with the Utah Jazz. The actual figure's not out yet. It is speculated something like a 5-year deal worth $200 million. However, he will be untradeable at least until next summer. He was maybe the hottest trade piece potentially around the association this offseason.
Yeah, he was. So it was kind of interesting that he did sign because it looks like this whole delay was because he was waiting to get moved and maybe picking up a certain different franchise, still making a good amount of money. But I always get a kick out of this, Ben. When Lauri Markkanen's on the move, Rob Pelinka better make a move here at this point, knowing they're maxed out on the cap, or Golden State having to pull off some miracle at this point. I think it's better for the NBA overall that Markkanen stays in Utah as opposed to going to one of those power teams. So shout him out. He wanted to stay in Utah. He's getting a lot of money for it, and he could be the man on that basketball team.
The 36th ever captain in the history of the New York Knickerbockers. His name is Jalen Brunson. He was named the captain yesterday for New York. We talk about the captaincy a lot for another New York team, but they play up in the Bronx. That's the New York Yankees. Jalen Brunson, now the captain, wearing the C on his chest for the Knicks.
Yeah, congratulations, Jalen Brunson. I believe we were told yesterday about our producer extraordinaire, Lance Bass of NSYNC, was the previous captain of the New York Knicks. So there you go. Long, illustrious history of being a captain for the Knickerbockers.
Proud franchises in New York all across. Yes, Lance Bass, not to be known as Lance Thomas, who was the last captain for the New York Knicks. All right. The story I've been waiting to discuss with my co-host since news hit late yesterday in our programming. Mr. Worldwide is now the naming rights of FIU football stadium. Pitbull now has taken over the licensing rights to be the name of Florida International's football stadium. No longer FIU Stadium. It is Pitbull Stadium down in the 305. Dale, Florida International University, more like Florida Worldwide University.
Yeah, I don't mind this at all. Like, typical me. Like, I usually see, I'm like, this is so dumb. I can't believe this is actually happening at this point. But I think this is a good partnership for both because you get the headlines, which is what FIU wanted to get. And if you are Pitbull, you obviously have a ton of money here. What better way to spend it than put your name on a stadium and get that worldwide approach and appeal? And also keep in mind, he's an independent contractor here, BSS. That's tax write-offs here every year. So that's $6 million he spends. He's going to write that off. He's probably going to perform at halftime. He's the big winner here. Yes. He is Mr. 305, now officially owning property in the 305. I like this move overall. I think it works for the university and Pitbull. Sure. Love it. Love to see this.
Love it for Pitbull. His introductory press conference yesterday after taking over the naming rights for now Pitbull Stadium. Sensational stuff. 5-year deal worth $6 million, $1.2 million per year that Donnie believes he can write off. He gets the naming rights to the stadium. Okay.
I'm going to cut you off real quick. Now, does he, sometimes you say, it's the name of the field. Are we getting, official monster signage on the outside of the stadium as if it was Lincoln Financial Field that you can see from, a blimp or from an astronaut in space at that point? See, I like this even more now. The official branding means even more. By the way, if you are paying the $1.5 million, you don't have to pay for the scoreboards and stuff like that. At least the university pays for the stadium, writing on there, right? He doesn't have to pay for the signs itself, does he? Tough scene.
No, I don't believe so. I think the stadium operations crew does that. He has the licensing and naming rights.
Yeah,
but on the outside of the stadium, it is literally going to say Pitbull Stadium, at least based on the mock design. Pitbull uses the stadium 10 times per year, maybe to host a concert. He gets 2 reserved suites for each home game. They're going to be going off. His title, the official entrepreneur of FIU athletics, and he is going to make an FIU football anthem. Move over, Hail to the Victors, or any other song. The Pitbull FIU anthem for the Owls is going to be something. NFL news and notes around the National Football League next.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
What is the ceiling for this kid? Now that he's got the money, and we saw something click with him, what is the ceiling for a Jordan Love in this Green Bay team?
Deepest pass target group in the National Football League, 2 stud tight ends. They're a legit 5 deep at receiver, 7 bona fide pass targets. Come on, man. This guy could be a stud. Top 5 quarterback.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Say the under has the correct juice to the 6.5 win total for the New York Giants. It's a losing season. It's a bad season in the greater New York area. Is Brian Daboll and is Joe Shane back next year?
As a Giants fan, what are you looking forward to? Absolutely nothing. You're hoping the Yankees make a long enough run so you can forget about the Giants.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
If the U.S. gets to a bad start and they're down or close, I may double down on the second quarter because I know that that's when Steve Kerr is going to want to either A, if it's close, open it up. If they're losing, you got to get the lead because you don't want teams like it was in South Sudan that believe that they can win.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Now, I love our producer, Joe Frizo, who is pulling double duty today, really triple duty downstairs and behind the scenes. Technical directing the show, producing the show on the fly. But the headline for this next graphic, brother, you can't be putting this stuff on live national television. Pats pull out. The Patriots out of the running for the Brandon Ayuk sweepstakes. They were involved in perhaps trade pursuits for the disgruntled wide receiver in San Francisco, one of the rumored teams that was in the running to maybe trade for Brandon Ayuk. They had conversations with San Francisco, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter, but now no longer in the running to trade for Brandon Ayuk. What do you make of this situation, DRS?
Yeah, this situation is kind of odd for me to start out with because we've heard about Brandon Ayuk being upset with the San Francisco 49ers for months and months and months on end, right from the Super Bowl all the way up till now. So you figured, you say, all right, We're in the Super Bowl window. We want to win a Super Bowl. We got to keep our best players happy. He's an integral part of this team, but they sort of let this fester where he's not practicing and now contacting other teams and probably getting excited about leaving San Francisco to go to the other teams. But the joke for me always was, like, if he went to the Steelers, like, okay, Russell Wilson's a quarterback, Justin Fields, there's a legitimate chance that they could be a solid franchise this year. I'm not talking about Super Bowl, but just playing in a good division, and you're certainly going to get your fair share of looks in that offense. Or if you're going to, let's just say, the Cleveland Browns, saying, you know what, Deshaun Watson, hopefully he can turn it on at this point and be that quarterback always thought he would be. I'm going to be an integral part of a very good football team. I think that can make a run into the playoffs and do some damage. The Patriots never made any sense for me because there's the timing of all this. Do you always want to improve your team? I understand the easy answer is yes, but the timing of when you want to improve your team. If you're looking at the Patriots this year, and let's just say, and it could still happen where they maybe jump into the process, Ben. Let's just say in 45 minutes, Brandon Ayuk got traded to the Patriots. We'd break the news and I'd go, their win total is the same. They stink. I mean, it's just, it doesn't make any difference. But he could be a difference maker in Pittsburgh and a difference maker, obviously, if he was going to the Cleveland Browns. So when I see, like, Brandon Ayuk's availability doesn't look like he's going to be with the New England Patriots, I don't understand why they were in on this. They should just be tanking this season once again, building up those assets, saving their money for when they believe they can start to be a competitor in the AFC East. Right. That's when you go out and get these legitimate players. You're always looking for better players. Again, I understand that. I just never thought it made any sense whatsoever, Ayuk to the Patriots.
I think it's a great point, Donnie. And that's what makes this situation a little bit confounding in San Francisco. Brandon Ayuk, in my estimation, is a difference maker. More than 1,300 receiving yards last year, 7 receiving scores in the first full season with Brock Purdy. Ayuk, not Deebo Samuel, not George Kittle, was Purdy's top target. He is a difference maker for a contender, like a Super Bowl co-favorite in the short NFC title favorites that are the San Francisco 49ers, and yet he is now on the trading block, which makes this situation even more complicated as well for those on the outside inquiring with some interest into Brandon Ayuk, maybe having conversations with the Niners GM, John Lynch. You have to trade for him, and you know there's going to be a hefty trade tag. Multiple early round draft picks would be my estimation of the capital you would have to give up. And then you have to pay Brandon Ayuk because that's the whole reason they're in this spot in the first place in San Francisco. I'm still not sure he is going to be traded because the asking price might be too much for what has to be dealt and then what has to be given up in terms of a new contract for Brandon Ayuk on the other side. Elsewhere, DRS, yesterday in the NFL, I found it somewhat surprising that Dave Canales announced that Bryce Young will not play in the preseason opener for Carolina on Thursday night against the New England Patriots. It was a 4.5-point spread. It is now nearly a touchdown in favor of the Pats in one of the two games tomorrow to start off in full week number 1 of the preseason. Were you surprised by the decision in Carolina to hold Bryce Young out of the first preseason game?
No, not necessarily, because different coaching staffs have different opinions on what they're getting out of the preseason. And also keep in mind, it's not just your young quarterback playing. We have to understand this notion of, let's send them out there for a quarter with, a left tackle that's not going to make the football team past another 2 weeks at this point. That means your entire starters, wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, and offensive linemen must be out there with your franchise guy. And maybe they're just bringing guys along. And also keep in mind, I'm not following like the day-to-day operations for the Panthers. Maybe, Ben, they have 1 or 2 starters nicked up on that offensive line that they want to give extra time for. You can't just plug in guys that aren't expected to play with your franchise guy. One blown assignment could end your entire season. So I don't have any issues that he's not going to play. In a perfect world, sure, you'd like to see him play. New coaching staff, new offensive scheme here. Didn't play all that well last year. Get him as many reps as possible. We understand that, but that's just not the life now in the NFL this day and age. The one thing you can never, ever, let's just say if one team we're going to play all our guys in the preseason, you lose 2 or 3 starters. That coach is never going to survive that season for doing it. You can never have too much caution. If the coach wants to be cautious in the preseason, I don't mind him doing it, Ben.
Risk of injury is always there, and I think your point is sound. We had the same conversation for the Hall of Fame game and the will he, won't he, Caleb Williams play. It's not just the quarterback out there with a guy that might not make the roster as his center or wide receiver. It's the entire first-team offense. But I would have expected for a 2-15 football team last year where their prized possession in the number 1 overall pick, Bryce Young, had an abysmal rookie campaign to try to gain that experience even early on in the preseason. I was a little bit surprised by the move out of Dave Canales because Bryce Young threw for more than 250 yards once last year. It was week 16 against the Packers, 312 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 INTs. But he had 11 TDs to 10 interceptions, only 2,877 passing yards. Put that into comparison for year number 2 for Bryce Young. Here are his season-long props. 3,200 and a hook, 17 and a half passing touchdowns. There needs to be improvement, as the graphic indicates.
Yes, and also I think there will be improvement. Also, you can take some solace where Dave Canales just came from in Tampa Bay, resurrecting Baker Mayfield's career. It's sort of the perfect sort of scenario that you would like from your new head coach, saying, hey, look, I just did it before, I can do it again. And I don't know how much resurrecting we need. We watched him in college. He was phenomenal. It was shockingly how bad it was last year, but sometimes you are a product of your environment, and hopefully that environment is better this year.
It was unstable in Charlotte last year. We'll see about 2024. More around the NFL next.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
What is the ceiling for this kid? Now that he's got the money, and we saw something click with him, what is the ceiling for a Jordan Love in this Green Bay team?
Deepest pass target group in the National Football League. 2 stud tight ends. They're a legit 5 deep at receiver. 7 bona fide pass targets. Come on, man. This guy could be a stud. Top 5 quarterback.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Say the under has the correct juice to the 6.5 win total for the New York Giants. It's a losing season. It's a bad season in the greater New York area. Is Brian Daboll and is Joe Shane back next year?
As a Giants fan, what are you looking forward to? Absolutely nothing. You're hoping the Yankees make a long enough run so you can forget about the Giants.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
If the U.S. gets to a bad start and they're down or close, I may double down on the second quarter because I know that that's when Steve Kerr is going to want to either A, if it's close, open it up. If they're losing, you got to get the lead because you don't want teams like it was in South Sudan that believe that they can win.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Some interesting initial quarterback depth charts released yesterday around the National Football League that involved 2 of the 6 rookie quarterbacks taken in the top 12 of the 2024 NFL Draft. We start in Minneapolis with the Vikings. Sam Darnold, who was listed as the starter following the offseason program in Minnesota by head coach Kevin O'Connell. In the first depth chart of preseason, Sam Darnold remains the starter. The 10th overall pick, the rookie out of Michigan, J.J. McCarthy, his backup. This was really the true surprise in Denver. Bo Nix, not even the backup. He's listed as the 3rd string QB behind both Zach Wilson and the number 1 quarterback, Jarrett Stidham. DRS, the caption of that graphic that you saw on your screen was, does it matter at this stage of training camp before week number 1 fully gets underway in the preseason? So answer the question, does it matter?
100% it does. It matters to me. And I understand what coaches do and some of the mind games that they like to play. And you got to earn your position. And I don't care where you always like these ones, Ben. I don't care where you were drafted. The best man will play. That's not how sports works here. You draft a guy in the first round. He's expected to be out there. Otherwise, your general manager will probably fire you for embarrassing him and vice versa, the opposite direction. But let's also take place here. Sometimes you say to yourself, oh, this depth chart is interesting. Well, how about when Aaron Rodgers gets drafted to the Green Bay Packers, but Brett Favre is ahead of him? Hey, by the way, Favre's first on the depth chart. Of course, that's going to make sense. And the same thing with Green Bay did. You go out and get Love as a draft pick as a quarterback high, and you don't play. Oh, why is he only the second quarterback? Well, Aaron Rodgers is above him. Let's take a look at some of these depth charts of how they're playing out. Like Sam Darnold has been kicked around. I'm not saying he's not an NFL quarterback at heart, because he is. Drafted high, teams still think he has some talent. They're going to give him a chance. But Minnesota isn't one of those football teams that we look at like the New England Patriots that goes, do we want to kill this kid out here? Because he has no weapons, no talent in the division. He is going to get pasted the first 7-8 games of the season. We were led to believe J.J. McCarthy was the ultimate winner. Unbelievable at the chalkboard. Boy, when you get him into the pros, he is going to be it from day one and command that huddle. We even had Jim Harbaugh thinking out there in Los Angeles that he was going to trade Justin Herbert because he never saw a quarterback ever around men that could be able to lead a group of guys to a victory. So now we're saying to ourselves, wait a second. We've watched J.J. McCarthy in his pro days, in his OTAs, and in training camp now, and he's not better than Sam Darnold. That could be an issue. Flip it over to the Broncos. You went out and said, all right, well, we're going to trade Russell Wilson. The future starts now. The future is going to be Jarrett Stidham over Zach Wilson. Now, I understand it's a depth chart. We haven't seen any preseason. This could change here. But why are you doing this? Because typically myself, I've seen it at every level of sports, professional, college, and high school. You know what typically happens on the first day of practice? The coach has the football and goes, you are my starter in front of the team, flips him the football and says, lead this team. And you set the tone from day one. Players around camp understand how well these guys play in camp, who deserves the start. But if you are going to be the leader of men and be the franchise quarterback to be drafted in round number 1 and be behind Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham, I don't know what Sean Payton is doing at this point. So worse here in Denver than Minnesota for me. I don't understand. Yeah. You get drafted round number 1 on a decent football team, you better be the starter day number 1 in OTAs. If not, I'm questioning the general manager and the head coach. And if I'm an owner, I'm saying, I don't know if I have the right guys in place. If you just sold me on the franchise guy that can't beat out mediocre bums at this point.
They signed Sam Darnold, that was the Vikings, to a 1-year, $10 million deal this offseason. All right, there's some investment. Maybe it's a 50-50 shot that J.J. McCarthy is the Week 1 starter when Minnesota travels to MetLife to take on the Giants. The Vikes right now a slight favorite. But you would think in that offensive situation with Kevin O'Connell as the head coach and now Aaron Jones in the backfield and the happy Justin Jefferson and T.J. Hawkinson, we'll see about the status of Jordan Addison following the off-the-field DUI arrest earlier this offseason. It would be a good place for the guy that has a proven pedigree in winning, but not necessarily in production. Not the case as of this moment. The shocking one to me, though, DRS, is in the Mile High City. There were 3 quarterbacks after the NFL draft when the season-long passing yards props were available. 3 rookie QBs taken in the top 6 that had a passing yards prop. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Bo Nix. Now with Bo Nix listed as 3rd-string quarterback, the passing yards prop is off the board. It is gone. Bo Nix is still listed as the starting favorite at -162 on the FanDuel Sportsbook, but the passing yards prop is gone. There was a literal market move based on the depth chart being released in Denver. Very confusing to me. An Olympic assessment up next.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. they probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
What is the ceiling for this kid? Now that he's got the money, and we saw something click with him, what is the ceiling for a Jordan Love in this Green Bay team?
Deepest pass target group in the National Football League. 2 stud tight ends. They're a legit 5 deep at receiver. 7 bona fide pass targets deal. Come on, man. This guy could be a stud. Top 5 quarterback.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Say the under has the correct juice to the 6.5 win total for the New York Giants. It's a losing season. It's a bad season in the greater New York area. Is Brian Daboll and is Joe Shane back next year?
As a Giants fan, what are you looking forward to? Absolutely nothing. You're hoping like the Yankees make a long enough run so you can forget about the Giants.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
If the U.S. gets to a bad start and they're down or close, I may double down on the second quarter because I know that that's when Steve Kerr is going to want to either A, if it's close, like, open it up. If they're losing, you got to get the lead because you don't want teams like it was in South Sudan that believe that they can win.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
An Olympic assessment over in Paris, live right here on this Wednesday on the early line on SportsGrid. From Sporting News, Jacob Camenker joins us live right here on this Wednesday to look at what we saw yesterday in men's basketball, preview the matchup for Team USA in women's hoops on this Wednesday quarterfinal day against Nigeria, and go all around the Olympic Games over in France. Jacob, as always, thanks for being here on the early line.
Oh, glad to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
122-87, Jacob. That was the final score yesterday. It was expected the Americans would roll into the semifinals at the Olympic Games, and that's exactly what they do, even covering as a 26.5-point favorite, blowing out Brazil by 35 points. Again, you could highlight a ton of good things that happened yesterday for the United States. Jacob, what was the favorite thing that you saw out of the Americans in the big victory over the Brazilians?
I think it was nice that it was a complete game. You could really go down the lineup and say, hey, everyone played pretty well during this. I mean, you can nitpick Steph Curry didn't make a three-point shot, which is unusual, but I think if you look at how Joel Embiid played in this matchup, and I know he's going to be a defensive liability at times against big guys like Nikola Jokic, in the next matchup might be difficult, but I believe he was only played 12 minutes in this game, but he was like plus 25 or something. You had LeBron James out there just carving up defenses with his passing, which has really been key to the success of Team USA. And I think the biggest thing that came out of this, though, was Devin Booker being able to go 5 of 7 from 3. With Steph Curry kind of struggling with the shot, I think he's 5 of 20 from deep in the Olympics, which is way below average for Curry. I think having Booker around and being able to space the floor better with that starting lineup is going to be key. And I just think USA fans should be feeling really good that they have kind of lived up to expectations so far. But this was the first game that really felt like a wire-to-wire blowout. There was nothing to worry about from tip-off to the end of the game, and they got everyone some action. So I think this was a great way to get into the semifinals, and they'll face a little tougher competition going forward. But with Team Canada out, things are looking pretty open for the USA to get to that gold medal game.
Yeah, Jacob, taking a look at, the path that the Team USA has taken. You had those sort of like international friendly games. They called them the showcase. We had a couple close calls here. And the questions always would come up. It's not the talent of Team USA. Of course, they're the most talented team, but the camaraderie and how they will come together. And it seems like they built on from those early showcase games into the group stages and now into the knockout stage. If we're taking a look at Team USA, were there any doubts for you? Because like Tatum sitting out, Joel Embiid sitting out one game, but it seems like it didn't matter or fracture this team at all.
Yeah, they seem to have good chemistry going for them, and I think as their on-court performance has improved, I'm sure that's eased any tension surrounding playing time concerns. And I think Steve Kerr's ability to get everyone into recent games and kind of say, hey, Jason Tatum, you sat out this game, but that was more of a matchup thing. You know, whether or not that's true, he did put him in the rotation the next game.
Yesterday, it was Devin Booker. 5 triples in that starting 5, leading the United States with 18 points. 6 guys scoring in double figures yesterday. So it sets up a semifinal matchup against Nikola Jokic and Team Serbia tomorrow. The United States blew out Serbia in its Olympic opener by 26. It's a 16.5-point spread for the semifinal contest in Paris on a Thursday evening. Jacob, you mentioned it. With Canada losing yesterday, with the host nation bump that France has been riding in every Olympic event, but now in men's basketball, France will take on Germany in the first semifinal tomorrow afternoon. The United States minus 600 to win its 5th consecutive gold medal at the Olympic Games. They have been a hefty favorite all along. So the question is not, can a team stand in the Americans' way? For me, Jacob, it's will a team even challenge the United States in a close contest in the Americans' pursuit of another gold?
I think it's possible. I think one of Serbia or maybe France. France has a tough test against Germany, though. But I think Serbia could give the United States maybe a run for its money. It's not necessarily going to be like a down-to-the-wire game like we saw Serbia versus Australia go into overtime. It's more of a, can a team stay close enough to the United States in the fourth quarter that there's a little pressure on? I could see that happening if Nikola Jokic has a big game and if Steve Kerr doesn't change up his center rotation for that game, because the thing I'm curious about for this upcoming game is how are they going to use Joel Embiid? Is he going to be not fully benched, but is he going to be playing off the bench? Are they going to use Bam Adebayo and Anthony Davis more? I think if they do that, they're going to be in good shape to beat Serbia. But if Embiid stays in that starting lineup, Jokic could get off to a hot start. So I think the Americans will face tougher tests going forward, but I don't think that we're going to get any like nail biters like we did in the lead up to the Olympics against South Sudan. But I've been wrong before, so we'll have to just see what happens there.
We'll let it play out here. Also, gold is expected for obviously the men's team, but also the women's team. If we flip it over to them today, a 3-game schedule out here. So it's a triple header. 1 game already underway. Third quarter, 2:25 left at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Looks like a 21.5-point favorite. Why? Belgium, 63-41 right now over Spain. Coming up at noontime Eastern, Germany and France. And then Nigeria versus Team USA at 3:30. The Team USA squad, a minus 28.5-point favorite. A total of 155.5. What can we look forward to today, Jacob, in your eyes, between Nigeria and Team USA?
I think this is a great opportunity for the USA to just kind of put another beat down on Nigeria. They faced off in February, and it wasn't a contest. I mean, the United States won 100-46. So I don't know that we're going to see that level of play this time around, but it just goes to show you how far the women's team is ahead of other countries across the world. And credit to Nigeria. I believe they're the first African team to make it to the quarterfinals in basketball at the Olympics. So they've done a good job, but they're relying a lot on Izine Kalu to lead them in scoring. And she's only 5'8", and we know the United States team has size. So if they can just prevent her from getting hot and just kind of make life difficult for her, Nigeria is going to have a really tough time slowing down Team USA on the other side and scoring on them. So I think this could turn into a big-time blowout, especially since the United States is starting to get some three-point contributions from Jackie Young and Kalea Copper.
Absolutely. So a monumental size advantage out of the United States in this matchup where Asia Wilson and Brianna Stewart have already been dominant in the Olympic Games. Keep an eye on Stewie's rebounding prop. It is 7.5. Again, huge size in favor of the U.S. Team USA perfect 3-0 at the Olympic Games so far, and they have won 58 consecutive basketball games at the Olympics dating back to 1992 in Barcelona. Minus 3,500 to win an 8th consecutive gold medal. Quickly, Jacob, before we let you go, in the final minute of this segment, the United States women's national team advancing to the gold medal match with some more theatrics. In extra time, 95th minute, Sophia Smith delivers the game winner for Team USA, who will take on Brazil after the Brazilians upset Spain yesterday. Is Team USA going to go home a gold medal winner at the Olympic Games?
They should, but it's going to be a tough matchup because for Brazil, this is going to be Marta's last game with the national team. She's been the best soccer player for them for a very, very long time, and they're going to want to send her out with the gold. So I think they're going to come and try to punch Team USA in the mouth, and the United States' scoring hasn't been great. So they're going to have to come ready to attack this Brazilian team. I think it's going to be a great matchup, but I expect gold from the United States.
Jacob Camenker from Sporting News joining us here on this Wednesday. Jacob, we appreciate the time. Back to the bigs in Major League Baseball up next.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
What is the ceiling for this kid? Now that he's got the money, and we saw something click with him, what is the ceiling for a Jordan Love in this Green Bay team?
Deepest pass target group in the National Football League. 2 stud tight ends. They're a legit 5 deep at receiver. 7 bona fide pass targets. Come on, man. This guy could be a stud. Top 5 quarterback.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Say the under has the correct juice to the 6.5 win total for the New York Giants. It's a losing season. It's a bad season in the greater New York area. Is Brian Daboll and is Joe Shane back next year?
As a Giants fan, what are you looking forward to? Absolutely nothing. You're hoping like the Yankees make a long enough run so you can forget about the Giants.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
If the U.S. gets to a bad start and they're down or close, I may double down on the second quarter because I know that that's when Steve Kerr is going to want to either A, if it's close, open it up. If they're losing, you got to get the lead because you don't want teams like it was in South Sudan that believe that they can win.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Mark Zinno's Major League Map on this Wednesday, live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. Zinno, our lead story for you was going to be action yesterday in the Bronx with our guy Luis. Don't call him you-know-what. Heel on the bump for the Yankees. But a rain out here in the Big Apple yesterday. A doubleheader scheduled today for the Yanks. So I believe, we've got a preview in there in our second segment together where we win with Zinn. It's first the Major League Map. Zinno, the marquee matchup this week in Major League Baseball out in Los Angeles. It's the Dodgers and the Phillies. The Dodgers took game 1. The Phillies respond in game number 2 last night, 6-2. What have you made of the midweek set so far between the Phils and the Dodgers?
Pair of playoff teams that are scuffling through the month of late July and early August. So kind of important to see how these teams reacted over the course of the first 2 games. Clayton Kershaw, by the way, has not looked good since, 2022. But nonetheless, he wasn't terrible last night, but you just get a situation here with the Philadelphia Bats where they wake up a little bit. I'll tell you what, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I kind of like the over tonight. I'm willing to fade a lot of people on the Dodgers staff. And Tyler Phillips is a guy right now that when I look at and I see somebody who in his last 4 starts has given up 5 home runs in the 5 outings or the 4 starts he's made and the 5 outings he's had overall, he's given up 6 home runs. This is a spot here where the Dodgers bats I think can wake up tonight. I don't know really who wins this one. I don't really like the matchup from a pitching standpoint for either side because again, I'm going to fade a lot of these Dodgers starters. I think that their sort of expected ERA is way higher than what their regular ERA is. So I don't mind squaring up against Gavin Stone, but I think there are runs coming tonight, guys.
By the way, you're taking a look here at the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're going to start to get some heat in the NL West from a couple teams behind them playing great baseball. San Diego Padres, Arizona Diamondbacks. That's going to factor in down the stretch. But also news broke yesterday. Mookie Betts is on his way back. Mookie Betts was possibly the MVP in the leadoff position, and the Dodgers, Mark, saying like, nope, Mookie, you're going to move there. Shohei is going to stay in that leadoff position. Do you agree with that decision or not with the Dodgers sort of shaking it up a little bit with Ohtani staying at that number 1 spot?
I mean, it's Mookie Betts. I would argue that it doesn't matter where he bats, he's going to rake no matter what, right? Like, that's just the kind of player he is. So the idea that he may have to bat third instead of first, are the Dodgers a real big base-stealing team that putting a guy on in front of him will limit the amount of bases he could steal? Maybe, but it doesn't feel like it'd be a situation. Look, if Betts comes back and starts hitting, the rest of the lineup is going to be energized by it. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. You've seen what Jazz Chisholm has done for the Yankees lineup. All of a sudden, everybody can hit when those guys could barely get to 200 a month ago. So if Betts comes back in and does what we expect him to do, I think the rest of the lineup benefits from it.
So, Zinno, right now, a 1.5 lead for Philadelphia over L.A. for what would be the number 1 overall seed in the National League. It's not just getting to the postseason, it's playoff positioning over the next month and a half in regular season action in MLB. Philadelphia right now a minus 130 favorite to be the number 1 seed in the National League playoff picture. Does the battle for postseason positioning impact your decision-making at all on who might be the favorite to contend for a National League pennant?
It doesn't for me because I think Philly is clearly better than the Dodgers. Look, I mean, let's just put it in these terms. The best version of Philadelphia this year has been clearly better than the best version of the Dodgers. I think that's fair to say, especially when you look at the top 3 starters for each team. You know that Philly has a decided edge. Both of these bullpens are good, but not great. I mean, I give an edge to the Dodgers bullpen over the Phillies bullpen, but they've seen their fair share of struggles this year as well. So top to bottom lineup wise, edge goes to Philadelphia. I think they're the better team. Doesn't matter to me. Can Philly walk into LA in the playoff series in the NLCS, so to speak, and win the best of 7? I think they can. I think Philadelphia is the best team, and I'm not really sure that anybody is all that close.
And you'll see a play out here, rubber match, as you pointed out a little bit later tonight. And yes, I do agree. We should get more runs than not tonight. But if we were taking a look at a team that needed 5 runs last night in the worst way, it was the Chicago White Sox. A 5-1 victory over the Oakland Athletics, coming in as close to a $2 dog price in this game with Ross Stripling on the mound. Jonathan Cannon, 6 innings pitched, 6 hits, 1 earned run. They should build him a statue outside of Guaranteed Rate Field in there in Chicago. What do we make of the White Sox victory? And also, could we possibly get one more out of them before the season ends?
Oh, I mean, tonight is the perfect anti-swagger spot to back the White Sox again, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you fired on the White Sox last night, you fire right back on them again tonight, as Oakland might drop 2 in a row. It is the Oakland A's. Like, as much as we thought they were going to be the worst team in baseball, they've been pretty good this year, all things considered. But this is a spot where you have to play the White Sox again. You can't just assume they're going to lose. Like, baseball is quirky like that, guys. I mean, it's one of those things that it's the right opponent for them to beat twice in a row. And then you kind of jump off the White Sox bandwagon. But, yeah, I looked at the board tonight and I said White Sox again. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. The 2 longest losing streaks in White Sox organization history have both happened in 2024. 14 games from the end of May into early June. And, of course, the 21-game skid that came to a close last night in Oakland. Chicago is 60 games below 500. 60. They are 28 and 88. They are the only team in Major League Baseball that has failed to win at least 40 games this year. Even the Marlins and the Rockies have won 42. You want to know how long it's been since the White Sox were not on a losing skid, but a winning streak? Yes. The last time Chicago won 2 consecutive games was a 3-game win streak back in the end of June. A win over Atlanta in the first 2 games over the Rockies on June 28th and 29th. It would be historic to see a 2-game win streak for the White Sox today. So we shall see. We will win with Zinn on the other side of the break with a ton of Major League Baseball action on this Wednesday, including a doubleheader in New York. We're at 4:06 p.m. Eastern Time. Zinno's favorite starter in the American League and ours, Luis, don't call him you-know-what heel, on the bump for the Pinstripes against the Halos as nearly a $3 favorite. A breakdown of everything today on this Wednesday slate in MLB comes your way up next.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
What is the ceiling for this kid? Now that he's got the money, and we saw something click with him, what is the ceiling for a Jordan Love in this Green Bay team?
Deepest pass target group in the National Football League. 2 stud tight ends. They're legit 5 deep at receivers. 7 bona fide pass targets deal. Come on, man. This guy could be a stud. Top 5 quarterback.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Say the under has the correct juice to the 6.5 win total for the New York Giants. It's a losing season. It's a bad season in the greater New York area. Is Brian Daboll and is Joe Shane back next year?
As a Giants fan, what are you looking forward to? Absolutely nothing. You're hoping like the Yankees make a long enough run so you can forget about the Giants.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
If the U.S. gets to a bad start and they're down or close, I may double down on the second quarter because I know that that's when Steve Kerr is going to want to either A, if it's close, like, open it up. If they're losing, you got to get the lead because you don't want teams like it was in South Sudan that believe that they can win.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
A near no-hitter last night in Arlington, courtesy of Framber Valdez against the Rangers. The Lone Star State showdown between the Astros and the Rangers. Houston wins game number 2. Texas won game number 1. It is game number 3 today. Yusei Kikuchi getting a start for the Astros. He was traded for at the deadline last week. He takes on the Rangers today. Houston, a favorite in Arlington at -132. Zinno, the over-under is 9. What do you like here in this matchup between Houston and Texas?
I know that Houston gave up a lot to get him, but give me a little rock and roll Kikuchi coup here to get another win here. I like him in the first 5 on the money line here. Why? Mostly because Texas is starting Jose Urena, who is not a major league starter anymore. If you look at some of the numbers he's had, particularly his numbers at home, they've all come out of the bullpen. As a starter this year, he's been ineffective. When you ask him to go 2 and 3 innings for the most part in a non-relief role, he has been less than stellar, to say the least here. I know the Houston bats don't hit all that much on the road, but guess what? The Texas bats don't hit anywhere on planet Earth in 2024. So give me Kikuchi here and the Astros first 5 money line at a very manageable number.
Let's keep it down in the South here. Milwaukee and Atlanta. Chris Sale's going to take the mound to match up against Freddie Peralta. And I guess Chris Sale would have to go 9 innings, no-hit baseball, no-run baseball to give the Atlanta Bats a chance to try to catch up. They've been dormant at the plate. So the question today is a minus 164 favorite for Atlanta. Does that hold up against Milwaukee? Because quite frankly, it's hard to bet baseball teams that just can't score runs right now, Mark.
Yeah, the Braves are the team. The Braves are the girl that says she's going to call you back but never actually calls. Right? Like, I mean, that's exactly, every time
all
you
been
think
there,
that
huh?
yeah, we've all been there. And so I'll call you tomorrow. And the next thing you know, just nothing, zero, bagel, nothing happens. And the Braves have been doing that to us all season long. But Chris Sale, all season long, has been absolutely outstanding. Look, he's gone 8 consecutive starts with 2 runs or less allowed. 14 of his last 15 starts dating back to the end of April with 2 runs or less allowed by Chris Sale. So he's going to have to be that stellar against the Milwaukee team, guys, that is bottom 6 in batting average, OPS, and WRC plus on the road against left-handers. The Brewers stink against lefties on the road here. Give me the Braves. First 5, minus a half run. Their bats don't have to do much, theoretically, against Freddie Peralta. But if they push across 2 or 3 here in the first 5, maybe get a ball to leave the ballpark, that should be enough for Chris Sale to hold it down through the first 5 innings.
The Brew Crew did lose at home last week in Milwaukee, a midweek series to these Atlanta Braves, who now ride a 3-game skid into today. But the ace in Atlanta, Chris Sale, is on the bump. He is the National League Cy Young favorite at plus 110. Zach Wheeler, second best number from Philadelphia, plus 220. Paul Skeens, third best price out of Pittsburgh at plus 240. A couple of postponements yesterday that made it slightly less than a full slate in Major League Baseball. In Cleveland, between the Diamondbacks, one of the hottest teams in MLB, in the American League's best, in the Guardians, and of course in the Bronx. Now, Zinno, the weather report the next few days in the greater New York City area is not kind to baseball. We could see some showers today, but a doubleheader is scheduled between the Yankees and the Angels. And Luis Gil gets the start for game number 1, the scheduled starter yesterday for the postponement. The Yankees nearly a $3 favorite at minus 290. What do we expect out of our guy Luis Gil today against the Halos?
All right, before I get to Luis Gil, can we not bury the lead here in case anybody looked at both prices for the doubleheader? Will freaking Warren is a minus 260 favorite. Who the hell is Will Warren? I actually had to Google.
They got the win last week.
I understand that. That's not like it's so innocuous. Why? There's not a world where Will Warren is a minus 265 favorite. Can we just leave that on the surface? You can't back the Angels, but there's no way you can back any version of the Yankees with Will Warren on the mound. Can you do it with Luis Gil on the mound? Sure you can, because whether he's Luis Gil or Lucas Gil, the Yankees are going to win when he pitches. Good enough for them to steal the first game of this series. Again, some of it depends if they even get the second game in here, but nonetheless, I'd back the Yankees. And by the way, just a note on the Diamondbacks and Guardians as you see the graphic. The Guardians have not lost 4 consecutive games all season. This is just their second 3-game home losing streak of the year. I had a huge 5% play on the Guardians last night to not lose 4 in a row. Obviously got rained out. I wouldn't touch it today. It's a little sketchy with a doubleheader here, Benny and Donnie.
Yeah.
Pretty close to a pick'em in the first one. The Slender Man, Brandon Pfaadt, gets the start for Arizona. The Diamondbacks have won 10 of their last 12. And despite being called Blake Lively on a broadcast by Gary Cohen and SNY earlier this week, Ben Lively gets the start for Cleveland in the opener. Zinno, we appreciate the time. Thank you for being here. Hour 3 up next on the Early Line.